Welcome to the Planet Paintball podcast, the ultimate podcast for paintball enthusiasts. Each week, we dive into the world of paintball, bringing you stories, insights, and tips from players, coaches, and industry insiders. Sponsored by 1023 Sportswear. Looking for high-quality gear that performs as hard as you do? Check out 1023 Sportswear. And as a listener of the Planet Paintball podcast, you can get 20% off your order with the code Planet Paintball. Suit up, save big, and play your best.
All right, welcome back to the Planet Paintball podcast, brought to you by 1023 Sportswear and Southwest Paintball in Bayfield, Colorado. Go and give them a shout if you're in the Southwest Colorado area. Today, I have Joshua and Gant from ATTKTX, which specialize in autococker parts, but you might know them from the Headband Hero, right? Is it the Headband Hero?
You nailed it, man.
Okay, great. Well, how are you guys doing today?
Doing pretty good. We appreciate you having us on, Hunter, man. Enjoyed your listening to your podcast, and we appreciate you having us on to highlight our small company.
Well, thank you. It's a really cool product that you guys kind of hit out with, and then a big fan of the autococker and mechanical scene overall. So I liked what you guys did with the front end for the twister, or for the twister, right? Because that didn't release with the twister bodies from Boston. It's separate, right?
Exactly. So that's kind of a funny little story. We were lucky to kind of work with Anthony on the Twister project, and the Twister guys are hardcore, as you know, and they want Twister everything. And so, we kind of wanted to do that gun as much justice as we could. And so kind of snowballed into making pneumatics. I've actually got some kind of a little
nice
sample prototype of the black anodized here, but yeah, they're going to be really cool, man. We're excited to see all the builds.
Well, the fan base goes nuts with those anos too. So there's going to be some really cool things that come out of that. But before we get to that, let's find out how you guys found paintball.
Joshua, you want to?
Yeah, let's see. I think the first time I played paintball, I can't remember what the gathering was, but they had like 4 or 6 rental pump guns or loaners or whatever, and they just kind of turned you loose in this cornfield. So you just kind of two groups that started at either end, and you're just running down these rows of corn, and then you wouldn't see them until you basically passed them. So that was my first experience playing paintball. That was like 94, I think. And then a buddy of mine had a couple of like a hammer pump gun and a was it the splat action, the front cocking pistol, whatever it was.
PGP.
Front or rear? No, the tube went in the front, it cocked the back. It was like a splat master or something, wasn't it?
Okay.
Yeah. So that's how I got started.
Pretty gnarly running down a cornfield though.
Yeah. And run by somebody and just start pumping as quick as you could. But yeah, it was fun.
I've heard of the corn maze before, but not just the playing cornfield.
No, it was
just
here's the cornfield. Go play it.
That is a new one. You usually hear the birthday party, but the cornfield, that is a new one. That's a unique one.
Yeah. That's a new one.
Yeah, I don't remember what the gathering was. So I think somebody just brought a handful of, I think they're tracer pump guns or something. I don't remember, but
tracers, yeah.
Yeah, they're just like, go play.
That's cool. So let's see. The first time, well, you remember Blockbuster back in the day, right? So we would, go. I had a sleepover with one of my good friends at the time, and we were young, and this is in '97, where we were hanging out, waiting to his dad was renting a Blockbuster movie. We were cruising through the magazines, and we came across, I think, an APG, and we were just mesmerized by that magazine the entire night, looking at all the, kind of like Josh was saying, the PGP pumps and just all this cool stuff. And he was like, look, let's go play in a couple weekends. And so I think, 1 or 2 weekends, the next weekend or the next weekend after that, we went and played at Paintball Atlanta. And funny story, we played in an indoor there. They had a small indoor field. They actually had an indoor field and a mini outdoor. And I remember kind of walking into this thing. It just kind of, it reeked of RP shear, and it was just kind of cold. And, you had all these, really cool plywood bunkers and whatnot. And funny story, actually, and Hunter, you might know some of these people, but the first time that I got shot, I got actually crushed. And, of course, in rentals, you're not allowed to, kind of crush somebody. And we're hiding scared in the back and whatnot. And dude comes by, shoots me 3 times, like one in the back of the head, one in the spine, and somewhere else. And man, I was 11 years old. I'm walking off the field and I've got kind of, I've got tears almost coming in my eyes. Like, I don't know if I can play this game. Like, I really don't know. And we went up to this little staging area, and you're probably aware of Lane Wright. I know you know Lane Wright, who used PSP, Image, Team Extreme, all that. His brother, Todd Wright, rest in peace, he actually kind of coached me through it to get back out there the next game. And I got back out there the next game, and I gogged somebody across the field, and that was all she wrote.
That, man, you had baptism by fire there, though.
I don't know if this is for me right now, man, but
that's a rough one.
I think the guy too had a spider. He had a spider compact with a vertical bottle, and dude, he smoked us, man. And
That was the
it was a
first
rough
gun I
one.
ever owned with the Spider Compact with the vertical bottle.
Nice.
Yeah, that was my first real paintball gun, was that one. But yeah, the Spider Compact with where it's screwed in, right? The compact was the foregrip, or the CO2 tank was the foregrip.
The super cool upgrade was the expansion chamber and the
Yeah.
anti-siphon, and then you were good.
Then you were one of the cool guys because you
Yeah.
could actually shoulder it.
Yeah, exactly. That 20-ounce tank got pretty heavy.
Yeah, it was something to run around with for sure. So how quickly did it get into competitive for you guys?
Go ahead, Joshua.
I think the first time I played competitive would have been like 96, I think. So pretty soon. And when I say competitive, it was like, local event or something like that. Somebody put together. So you had a handful of teams that show up. But yeah, so I think that's when it would have been like 97, 96, 97, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Now, Hunter, Joshua, you need to elaborate on that more, because Joshua got to play like in a really cool series coming up, and the Pan Am series, which, Hunter, I don't know if you heard about that. That honestly,
Yeah, hopper ball.
man, a lot of look at all the Dynasty guys. A lot of dudes in the West Coast came up in that series, and Naughty Dogs, a lot of those guys, a lot of really good ballers. And I can remember seeing that in the magazines, being like, man, I wish they brought that out there. And tell them a little bit about that, Joshua.
Yeah, so that first time I played those would have been 2002 or three. But yeah, just when I was here, I moved out here, Salt Lake kind of area, Salt Lake Provo, whatever you want to call it, and was going to the local kind of renegade fields and met people, and we put together a hodgepodge team. But yeah, we played rookie in Dan Bonebrake was the one that ran those circuits. So we played our rookie season, I believe it was 2002 or 2003 in that Pan Am. It was 5-man hopper ball. It was a lot of fun, especially people are always trying to get, because you had to use like a factory 100 round tube. So people would take the 140s, the old ones, they cut them down just a little bit longer and try and get an extra 5 balls. It's funny. I went and bought a couple different 100-round pods and then counted them out and found out that the factory view loader pods actually held an extra 5 to 10 balls or something like that. So we'd all go on with the 2 pods. You'd show them, and then me and one of the guy with front guys, we'd fill up our loaders, because our loaders wouldn't hold 200, right? So basically we'd wind up with 2 extra pods for the back guys.
Okay.
So they would go with a loader and an extra pod. What's that?
Was it only 2 pods per person, or was it a paint limit per team? How was it?
It was pods per person is the way they did it, because they'd check you going onto the field. So you'd walk out with your 2 pods and an empty loader, and once they're like, all right, you're good, we'd divvy it up so the back guys would have more more paint, and then the front guys would just have a loader. And
okay.
Yeah, those are good times. I enjoyed that format.
And they stayed like playing mounds and more concept stuff longer than going into airball, didn't they? Out there in the Pan Am circuit?
That's a good question. I don't remember, because they were all down in Vegas, I believe. So it was whatever they had. No, they had air bunkers set up there.
Okay.
I think they had some. I want to say they might have had some hyperball stuff. Yeah, and I don't honestly remember 100%. But right after that, I went into playing. Was it MPPLs? So I played like half a season novice, and then got picked up. I got invited to try out for Bone Break.
Okay.
So then I played Bone Break Factory MPPLs.
How long did you stay with Bone Break?
About a season, and then he had to fold up the team. there was some lawsuits going back and forth, some paint deal, because he was running, what was it, war paint out of Oregon. And
Okay.
then obviously he had the Pan Ams and he had his Bone Break Factory stuff. But there was some, I don't know the whole story, but from what I recall, there was some bad deal with one of the distributors over paint or something, and they kept suing him, and he kept winning, and he's like, it's just not worth. He's losing money just going to court and fighting over the stuff. So he just
It wasn't worth it.
Yeah, he just closed down, which means that the sponsorship of the team, or the Bone Break Factory team, was promoting all his products in his company, and when there wasn't a company there, when there was basically a team, which is unfortunate because we were looking at doing millenniums, and he was looking to build a team up to pro kind of a thing. But
Yeah.
we were
So what
playing
was the
D1 and D2 MPPLs.
okay? What was the move after Bone Break?
So I was working at Special Ops Paintball back then, the Woods Ball company. So they launched their own like Woods Ball circuit. So I was playing that a little bit. And just the scenario stuff, going to big games like Oklahoma D-Day, and what's the one that's Tittman versus the World at Hell's Survivor or something like that in Michigan.
Yeah.
So I was traveling around doing kind of the rec stuff. I don't know. It's kind of funny. It's just the direction life took me. I kind of fell out of the serious and tournament stuff.
And more into the more scenario side.
Yeah, recreational scenario side.
It was actually the SPPL, which is that league was kind of the inception behind the UWL.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Tom Cole's first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
of course, people were like, hey, these rocket launchers and stuff are getting kind of silly. Let's bring back, mech ball, right?
Yeah. Straight 10-man.
Straight up 10-man, which thankfully they did, because that's awesome.
Because in the URPL, you could have like a heavy gunner, a sniper. Like you had guys that could leave early, and it was unique.
It was unique.
Bob ran those for a while. Bob Long.
Oh yeah, definitely. They were fun, but when you had guys just basically getting shot on one side of the field and inserting on the other side, it just kind of became kind of lawless,
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I never got to play them. They looked like fun though.
They were a good time.
I didn't play the UWL, but obviously I played the SPPL, and it was the same thing. They had like objectives you get on the field that would give you different props or different advantages, things like that. But yeah, it was interesting. The 2-half game. Yeah. You'd swap ends, I think. So you play half the game on one side of the field and switch ends, go to the other end, or go to the other side.
So it was like a scenario X-ball almost.
Kind of, yeah. So it was 10 guys in each team, and then you would and there was like reinsertions in each half. So like if you got shot, you'd reinsert at like, I think it was like every 10 or 15 minutes or something like that. So like there'd be like ebb and flows in the game as they're trying to push 10 guys across this giant field.
Oh yeah.
It was good times.
That sounds actually pretty fun. Chaotic, but fun.
And then they'd bum rush 10 to a side,
Yeah, and just blow it open. Well, Gant, what's kind of like your playing history?
Well, so I started playing in 97. I went out and, had that time. Luckily, I stuck with the sport. And I was fortunate enough to grow up around Paintball Atlanta, which was a big team in the Southeast. And I was on the lowest team, 2 Extreme. It was a bunch of my young friends and I, a lot of good players that you might know of. A lot of guys who were super good, I'm sure you guys know the same thing. Like a lot of guys that if they would have stuck with it, but for whatever reason, they didn't, and life took them on a different journey. But we had a kids team called 2 Extreme, and of course, after getting pounded on by Team Extreme for the longest time, we eventually started giving it right back to them, and went up to 2 Extreme, and I was pretty loyal to that whole organization for a very long time. That's kind of my home team, home field. I love Team Extreme and all those guys. And let's see, maybe about 2002, I took my first, or excuse me, 2003, I'd graduated high school and I was going to college, and I took my first break where I didn't play paintball for a year, and it was kind of a weird thing, but I still kept up with a lot of the sport. Hunter, if I'm telling too much of a different story,
No, go.
Some of the story's kind of cool. X-Ball had really started around that time. And, of course, they did in 03, they did the X-Ball at World Cup and kind of all the teams and stuff. And anyway, so I had taken that year off to go to college, and Team Extreme and everybody was getting into, doing X-Ball and whatnot. And I remember that I came home from Valdosta State, which is, in South Georgia. And they were like, hey, we're having a practice when you want to come play. I didn't play in a year. Well, long story short, I went out there just ragtag and, I shot a lot of people. And I remember Joe Fortin, the captain of Team Extreme, kind of got me in the parking lot and he said, hey, what are you doing next weekend? And I said, I didn't really have, anything. He's like, you want to go to LA? And I was like, all right. Well, Joe, Joe, I don't really have any money for a flight and all that kind of stuff. He's like, don't worry about it. I'll get you. I'll make sure you're taken care of. And we went out there and we started that season with Team Extreme. And by the end of the season, we did pretty well. I think that year, we took third in D2 World Cup, some other stuff like that. So I kind of, the game, as it always happens, it sucks you back in. And at one point, Hunter, I kind of looked at my paintball career and I was like, you know what? I put so much time into the sport that, I had started to see guys that I knew or that I competed against start to go play at the higher level. And I said, you know what? I got to give it a shot. I wanted to try out for a pro team. And my plan at the time, my good friend Aaron Bowling at the time, he plays for Saberwolves and a bunch of other stuff. But
Yeah, I've heard of him.
yeah. Our plan was I never wanted to get on a team by who I knew. And I really just wanted to show up and kind of show out and show what we got, right? And so the plan at the time was just to go try out for Miami Effect. I don't know if you probably know who not the Chris Lasoya Miami Effect, but the later
The Smart Parts Miami Effect.
Exactly. So that was our game plan. And actually, it's kind of funny. It's kind of ironic of what I just said, but Jason Green at the time, who, just an amazing player around here, All-Americans, Far Side, Image. Well, I think he almost played for Image, but he had kind of noticed that he knew that we were kind of up and coming talent and he knew us from the home field. And so we kind of told him about our plan, like, hey, like, let us know when, because obviously he was playing for Philadelphia Americans and, Miami Effect being right there. I said, hey, let us know when they're practicing. We're just going to buy our tickets and come out there and hopefully they'll let us play. And so he kind of got wind of it. And I'll never forget it. I owe a lot of credit to Spesh Robinson. I was down in Valdosta. I was in the cafeteria and I'm sitting there and I get a call and I missed the call. I didn't know, I screened it. I didn't know who it was. And I got the message. It was like, hey, this is Spesh Robin from the Philadelphia Americans. And, mind you, Philly at the time was the 2-time world championship team. And he said, hey, we're interested in having you come out to a practice, this and that. And so I was just kind of, I was just kind of in shock, right? And we had about 10 weekends to get ready for this practice. And my friend Aaron and I grinded. I drove from Valdosta up there 4 hours. We played every single weekend, Saturday and Sunday, scrounging as much paint as we could, whatever we could do, working on drills, snap shooting, one-on-ones, all that kind of stuff. And I remember one time Jason came out there and we got him pretty good. Anyway, so went to the pro tryout. I was lucky to, make the team. A lot of big name players were there at the time. Jason Trozen, who, runs the league. He was Trauma at the time. The Garcia brothers from Oakland. But anyways, yeah, so I ended up making it, fortunately with Philly. And I ended up playing there for 4 years. Just an amazing experience to be in that whole organization, Smart Parts, see, it was just an awesome time. I played in 3 leagues. I played in the NXL, the MPPL, the Millennium Series. So we were doing, kind of like we were saying earlier, we were doing 15 events a year plus practices. So I don't know if you remember, Hunter, but at the time we had the All-American Paintball Park.
Yeah. Yeah, the indoor park. And it had the outdoor component too, also, right?
Correct, exactly. And they actually had one event there because what happened was Adam and them, it was very expensive to fly 2 teams down to Florida, right? When the weather was good because it was very cold up there. So they built the All-American Paintball Park and we had a team house up there. And that was just an amazing, amazing opportunity and amazing time, man. But a lot of traveling, just a great experience. Of course, playing for Smart Parts too, you really got exposed to kind of the whole product development, manufacturing side, and it's like, look, every practice, you showed up and somebody was cut, right? Or somebody was either cut or somebody new was there, right? Like, I mean, Justin Duder Summers, Matt Chim, just JT Bouchard, all of these guys. There's so many guys, great talent that played for that team. But yeah, what I was trying to get at with that is you may have gotten comfortable with a piece of equipment or a piece of gear. And next thing you know, it's like, well, hey, here's the new shocker. You like the NXT? Well, guess what? Here's the Lux, right? And it's kind of like, you just kind of to go with it. And, the true professional players will make that happen, and, but anyways, so yeah, that was a great, great time.
So was that still when they were doing player trades?
Yes.
Like when you could show up to event and be traded to
That's
Aftershock after game 1?
So again, cut me off. I got tons of stories, but I remember one specific time I was rooming with Jason Green at the time, and literally at that tournament, he got traded to Miami Effect with I think it was with, can't remember if it was Frank Connell, it was a couple other players, and then that's at the time that we brought over Aaron Tholey and Ryan Moorhead. So you're right, it was crazy because like, hey, they're your teammate one game and then they're not the next, right? It was pretty wild.
Yeah, that was a interesting time in X ball for sure, and the pro league.
What'd you guys think of the 15 balls per second that they did recently? And I know, Joshua, you were out there.
The Dynasty Aftershock.
The Dynasty Aftershock scrimmage.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to watch much of it. I got to watch the pro peptide clips of it.
Yeah.
I saw just that. A busy weekend. I would have liked to see the field a little bit more open since they brought back the X, but I like that it looked good. I'm looking forward to seeing a more polished version of it for sure.
Yeah.
Josh, since you were out there, what did you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, that's the field that the team I'm playing with right now practices at, and it's definitely kind of a startup field. So I imagine once the guy gets, a little more money into it, a little more time, because it's basically he's got just some netting that nets off kind of the staging and parking, and it's just kind of a grass field. So as far as the size goes, I want to say it's whatever the kind of standard NXL size is, but that's probably the bare minimum. Like there's no gap around the edges or whatever. So, but I could see what you're saying with that large X in the middle. Does it need to be a bigger field or whatever?
Well, I'm just saying, like, we could take out some of the other bunkers,
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. If we
I'm not sure what
lose a wedge or so.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he based the layout off of, or if there was I don't know enough about that end of it to say one way or the other, but with the amount of paint, though, I bet you the players appreciated the bunkers. Hearing those fires really took me back to the uncapped semi days.
Yeah, the 15 balls a second is wild. People forget what it felt like.
It's great. That's kind of what I was getting at, is kind of hearing that again. I was like, man, like, dude, like, because and that's the thing that people don't understand. Like, you're getting ripped in the bunker when you come out of the bunker, and then when you're coming off the field, and I don't know, watching that Northwest paint cover, I think was the company that did it.
Yeah.
It definitely seemed a lot more aggressive, but obviously the 15 BPS helped that. But I also think it was the number of points you could play more aggressively, right? Like the time period. So I don't know. I don't think 15 one-off tournaments of 15 or higher is cool. I don't think it's the way, but I think that the longer format allowed for more aggressive play because you could, right?
Yeah, and I like that in the finals for pro, they've gone to 2 halves. I think that makes it a little bit more interesting. 15 is so when I've taken a couple breaks, never lost following paintball, but one of the things I came back in was called the URPL, and it was put on by oh my gosh, Pat McKenna, who is one of the coaches on the Heat roster, and it was a small field about the size of a Hormesis field, a little bit bigger than a Hormesis field. And it was 4-on-4. And he looked at us and said, you guys can do old school NXL, full auto, 15 balls per second.
Gracious.
But you can only take 2 pods. But, and we did penalty boxes and the whole 9 yards in that. And it was fun. I don't know if it's the format for a sustainable thing, because you can definitely, you got to know what you're getting into. You're going to get ripped. You're going to get the extras, but it is fun one-off.
The limited paint. I think that's the move too, because if you've never played it, like at least 4 pods, I mean, or even 2, like some of the stuff we've done in like Brazil and Europe, it's 2 pods, and it's just, I don't know. I like it. I think
I like, well, it's NXL Europe now, but I like the 4 pod rule. The 2 pod looks interesting. I think that's what they're doing at Nations Cup, right? Is 2 pods in a hopper. I think that might be a little not enough, but
you can shoot a good string off.
Firing
Go
mode?
ahead, Joshua.
I said, is it with the 2 pods? Is it any firing mode, or do they give a specific firing mode and rate of fire?
I think for Nations Cup, it's just NXL ramping.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
10. Yeah. So,
which helps a lot.
What were you gonna say, Gant?
I can't even remember right now. Oh, I was gonna say, like, when you play in that 2 pod, you can shoot a string off the break, you got to hit who you can get, and then you've got to make something happen, right? But
yeah, you're either running up or you're picking your shots pretty quick. But with a field that short, it can also be hard to kind of just get out.
4-on-4 playing what'd you say, uncapped BPS on a Hermesis style field? That sounds wild.
Yeah, it was a little bit bigger. It wasn't much bigger. And it was 15 balls per second, but it was old school in Excel. So 1 and then 2 and hold.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
100%.
And we had some guys that opted not to do that just to save paint. So,
Hunter, let me tell you a quick story about that. They had to get rid of that because what would happen was, I don't know if you remember, but back in the day, like you could start with the gun in front.
yeah.
And the problem too is when they made it go back like this, people would bop, bop, bop. So like there would be so much paint flying over the parking lot that they had to kind of. It was crazy, man.
So, I was always wondering why they made us start going down, but now that makes a lot of sense.
I don't know. I don't know. I still think it should be semi, to be honest with you, but that's I'm on a different camp there.
Well,
Yeah,
I
I
would,
like the semi because it was
yeah,
more player skill, right? You have to train your fingers along with how to play the game and all that as well. But problem is, it's just so easy to cheat when you have it that way, right? I think that just
yeah,
the firing modes kind of eliminated some of the gun cheating.
yeah. I think at some point, I think like 6 out of 10 players had a cheating board in their gun, one way or the other. I think the favorite one I saw was someone had shoved a switch and had a dollar bill underneath their foregrip so they could activate the switch, fold it up.
And that's right. At that time, it was just about people had them, and it was how could you get rid of the program? But that was the secret sauce. It's kind of like, what was your special code? Was it, blah blah, 2 trigger pulls, hold a second, on off, turn the eyes off, all this. Uh, but
Or
anyway,
did you have the magnet or the uh, RF chip in the glove? So when you held the gun, it went into the mode, but when you let go of the gun, it dropped.
Yeah.
I don't know if those ever existed, but those were the crazy ideas that I heard people talking about, or I talked about, or whatever.
oh yeah, 100%.
Or the ones that they try and you'd have the refs asking for paint because you had to keep the gun in the firing mode for or to keep
Yeah.
cheating. Otherwise, after so much time, it'd drop out. Like I remember teams would like run over with pods to give it to the refs so they could keep the gun shooting until the main ref got there.
Yeah, and when you learn that some of the guys had that, and it's like, well, no wonder you're shooting dudes off the break. Like, you know what I mean? Like, anyways, but, because of course we played with a lot of the pins then too, right? But anyways.
So why did you exit, I guess, would be a good thing.
You know what, Hunter, I wish that I had stayed on. So to be honest with you, 2008, we took second at the World Cup to Ironman. For whatever reason, Ironman had a number. They had an amazing team at the time, and just it is what it is, right? And we took a second at World Cup. That was 2008 when kind of, the economy had collapsed. And I was just like, you know what? I was like, man, maybe it's time to get a real job and this and that. And I wish I had stayed on a few more years, to be honest with you. And because I know a lot of those guys had done a lot of really cool traveling to different places. And anyway, so yeah, I got out of the game in a sense and, kind of did the real job route, and I got into some other stuff as well. And I'm so glad that the ICPL came back, because at the time it was just like UWL and a couple other random things, right? And it's just like, I don't know, the UWL, cool thing, but I think that people were yearning for that straight up 10-man, that old school, that, and kind of what you were saying, Joshua, about, I don't know, and maybe that's what we love about the ICPL as well, is that the harder you make the game, the more we love it. Meaning, like, the more you have to think, the more you have to shoot semi, all those little things. It's maybe that's competitive level. I don't know.
Yeah. And I just can't get enough of mech, to be honest with you.
It is fun.
Definitely try and do some more mech events. Yeah, they seem like they would be a fun thing to do for sure.
West Coast kind of got shortchanged this year.
On
at
mech
least,
stuff.
Yeah, on mech stuff, at least from the ICPL.
Yeah, the only one I've done was the Vegas NXL last year. We did the 10-man.
Okay, who'd you play with?
Desert.
Okay, yeah, heard of those guys. They've been around for a hot minute.
Oh yeah.
They're doing their 20th anniversary Eclipse gun this year because they've been sponsored by Eclipse for that long.
Very cool.
That's got to make them one of the first Eclipse guns.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe they're for sure they were the first kind of rec scenario kind of team, like grassroots team that had a full up on Eclipse sponsorship. But yeah.
Hunter, and if you haven't met those guys, those are great dudes. Like, all the Desert Edge organization. I mean, there's like how many of them? There's like 60 of them.
Yeah, I mean, because again, they've done all the various Woods Ball and scenario SPPL, UL, or yeah, I mix up all the acronyms. But yeah, they've done all those. So I mean, they've got guys that are kind of active um, tournament players, and they have guys that are more rec players. But I mean, they took uh, 3 7-man teams to the RMPL, yeah, the Colorado one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just outside of Denver in Brighton or whatever.
Yeah.
So they had
Yeah.
teams on there for that, and I'm pretty sure they could have probably filled another squad if they wanted to. But yeah, they've got a decent number of guys with them for sure.
Colorado seems to be steadily growing for paintball. And I don't say that just because my buddy's out there, but because he's out there, I've paid attention to him, and it seems like they got 2 leagues now and some different formats to offer. So it's kind of nice seeing it grow in that part of the country. Where in Utah are you kind of based out of?
What's that now?
You were saying American Park. Where's that like in relation to Salt Lake City?
It's 20-ish, 30 minutes south of Salt Lake.
Okay. So I worked for 3 months in Park City and got to know it used to be called Utah Extreme. They had an indoor park in Salt Lake.
Like
And
off the
played out of there for a
70,
little
200
bit.
south or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it's there anymore. Someone mentioned in the comments on one of the videos that it's no longer there, but
Yeah, we had 2 or 3 indoor places for a while there. Paintball was again kind of right before 2008. Economy shut it, but Special Ops Paintball, all those indoor places kind of went away somewhere in that window, right? But now can't think if there other than the few outdoor. Well, yeah, Vendetta that the Aftershock Dynasty game was at. They're kind of a semi-organized regular field. There's SB, which is like more of a rec. It's all your high school and college and bachelor party type groups that go there. But there's not as many organized indoor fields like there was 10 years ago or however long it was.
yeah, it would. I was out there 08 or 09. I had just graduated college and I was doing a weird educational thing out there that took me out there all the way from Boston to
Yeah,
Park City, Utah.
you had mentioned that Northern League, and I was like, okay, well, you're where are you now? Are you
I'm South Carolina.
okay? That's what I thought. So you play out of Paintball Central, or
Yeah. So Paintball Central, the Greenville location, is kind of my home field.
yeah,
And
Tyler Humphrey, all those dudes, great guys.
yeah, they're up in Greensboro, but they are really good guys, and they're doing some cool stuff with they got a new format called the Blitz, which is kind of a ode back to uh early 2000s where lower teams will play higher teams in the prelims.
Another thing
and yeah, and then they will play they play whatever their division is in the finals.
That's 100% something that's missing in paintball too. Like, because you could lose every other game, but you get that opportunity to play that pro team, and it's a little bit different now because the skill level is so high, but you at least walked away from there saying, you know what, here's the level, here's what it takes. Like, hey, I won that snap shooting, I shot this guy off the break, I, you at least have an idea of what that level is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think they did it right for a local league that's doing that. They put it at D4, so D4 can either float up to the high division or
Cool.
stay low.
Doesn't the WC do that kind of as well, where they have it's like D5, D4, and then it's what they call it their I forget the word, but basically
Premier, right?
all play.
Yeah, they got the Premier.
Premier, yeah.
Premier is what they call it.
So basically, if you're doing well, you can decide to kind of like, let's say you won all your prelim games or something like that, or your prelim matches. you could then go play the next level. That's pretty cool.
So, well, you could sign up for the next one, but it informs where you land. It's interesting because you get points based on your win, and then you get a point for a tie. I think it's 5 points or 3 points for a win, a point for a tie, nothing for a loss. 3-minute clock, and you play each team 3 times. So, little kind of race 2 formatty, if you will. But because it's that 3-minute shot clock, essentially, you have that time to work with. And if you tie, it's, better than a loss, but you want
I
to
like
go
that
for
they're
the
doing
win.
something different.
Yeah, it's been cool. They've, and they brought back the, I don't know if you've gotten to play the 10-man they do in
No, but
December.
I want to. Yeah, I
So
want to.
they have that, and then they do a 5-man during the summer months too.
Very cool.
That's
Yeah, that
retro
10 man
mechanical.
I know is usually very cold.
It's cold and can be wet.
It's always cold. It's always cold, is it
It's
not?
always cold.
Yeah, no, I've seen it. That looks like a really their fields look top notch. The high ball. I don't know if you guys can hear that thunder. I hope I don't lose you guys for any reason. But yeah, that tournament looks like a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, it's a good time, and there's a good mix of like the local guys and kind of the regional pros find some teams.
Very cool.
And then Image has come down the last couple years for it as well. NRG puts in a team that has some pros on it, so and they have everything right there. So you get to play hyperball, you play mounts, you play a hybrid field. So it's like a mini ICPL.
They do it right.
Yeah, and they're building a new park up in Greensboro, which is supposed to be really, really good when they're done with it. So, so how did you two meet? Because you're still in Georgia, Grant.
Yep, in Georgia.
Okay, and you're out in Utah, Joshua. So,
Well, the funny thing about that is actually Joshua and I have actually. So I was thinking about it, Joshua. I want to say 3.5, almost 4 years now, maybe something like we're approaching 4. I know we are.
Just over 3, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. The only time Joshua and I have met in person is actually at World Cup this last year. But of course, we talk either every day or every other day, Zoom meetings and all that kind of stuff. So I'll lead into it. Well, long story short, I won't kind of give you the whole crazy thing, but I had a paintball product idea, right? And so kind of I had been kind of modeling things and whatnot and kind of developing the idea for a period of time. But I knew that I didn't have the ability in the programs and whatnot to kind of take it to the next level, right? So I was searching around to kind of see somebody that I could potentially work with on that. And the funny thing is Joshua's one of his buddies, and Joshua, you can kind of fill in anywhere, but
It was
I found what
it
was
was the owner. You reached out to him, right? It was the owner of Spec Ops' brother, so the guy that ran the CAD or design department for Spec Ops.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. Very nice guy. I contacted this gentleman, and he basically said, "Hey, look, I've got somebody who I think would be even better or perfect for your situation." And he kind of basically recommended Joshua, and Joshua and I kind of linked up. And after kind of several meetings and whatnot, we just kind of said, "Hey, Joshua." I explained to Joshua kind of what some of my aspirations were and kind of the project that we were working on, and Joshua kind of got behind it as well. But one thing that Joshua said to me was like, "Hey, look, I've worked in paintball and I've done other things, and we both had it in a sense, right? And we both wanted to kind of be partners, right? So, Joshua wanted to, and have ownership in the company in a sense, right? So we basically from there started to build a tactics from scratch, right? And so every square inch of the tactics has been built by scratch, right? So trademarks, names, all the domain names, the website, the social media. We probably have 20, 30, 40 products out there that we're working on, all sorts of different things. We've launched, I'll tell you what, we're coming up on our first year in a sense. We've only been at this for a year. Obviously, we have a lot of experience in the game, but there's so much to learn in manufacturing, right? It's a whole nother level, man. But I will say, Joshua and I, we work very well together. We complement each other. Joshua feels strong about certain ideas. I feel strong. We kind of come in there and we've learned how to work with each other too. And of course, like you were saying, Hunter, we don't have the luxury of sitting in an office every day and learning each other and kind of like. So we've done the best that we can, kind of doing things remotely and just kind of building that to here. So we have done an absolute ton in a year's time. And I don't even know the product count, but there's a Shopify right there. Thank you, whoever did.
Oh,
Officially,
is that ding, the Shopify ding?
Thank you guys so much. But yeah,
that we
so
prototyped and officially made is at least 50 different. I know we've got at least 50 drawings in our folder. So
man, we're coming hard,
prototyped and
Hunter.
released. We probably
Yeah,
got at least that many again that we haven't even got to prototype.
we're coming hard, Hunter, and we've got a lot of big plans for tactics, and we love mechanical. We love all paintball, to be honest with you, man. I don't care what it is. As long as you're playing paintball, you're having fun. We want to make great products to do that. And so yeah, we're learning a lot, and we appreciate all of our customers and everybody being patient with us. We've had to do a lot of pre-orders to kind of get this rolling. As you can imagine, this stuff takes a lot of time. It's a lot of money, and so we've shoot, we did the Delta ZFR, we did gold chambers, we've done about 3 or 4 gold chambers. We've done Lazarus valve screws. We've done obviously we did the Twister project with Anthony and F6 and Mozak. We've done all pneumatics now. We work with Shock Tech on that. We launched the Headband Hero, and Hunter, we're really trying to. Where on one side of the coin, we kind of have a disadvantage because we're the new guys. We're learning a lot. A lot of these companies have been in this sport for 10, 15, 20 years, right? And so, and in that token, we have a disadvantage. But I will tell you where we have an advantage is we have a very good outside perspective. So we can come in, we can kind of look at things from an outside perspective and say, hey, what's been done and what's not being done, right? And I think that the Headband Hero kind of speaks to that. So yeah, the Headband Heroes have gone insane. Our video in our small world of paintball kind of went viral, and I think it has like 230, 240,000 views. And I'll tell you, from airsoft to paintball, all around the world, people have kind of gravitated towards the Headband Hero, and it's just been awesome to see, man.
It's a cool product and it's something everyone can use, And for years I've done after I've washed them, now I gotta get it all straight again, right? I think everyone's thrown a headband around a little pull, and I got to iron this out a little bit while it's still wet so it doesn't crumple up. And that kind of saves it from that. It also keeps it more secure. I got to see it for the first time in person last weekend. My buddy Norris had picked up one for me,
Okay,
guys.
very cool.
So shout out Norris and the Filthy crew.
Yeah, that was one of the kind of our goals is like finding something that or developing something that every player could use, and then like that's kind of one of the things where we're looking at different ideas or talking about different things. It's like, hey, what's a product that we could make for that every paintballer would need, right, or that everybody would use. So a number of the things we were working on is kind of born from that or came from that kind of mentality or that thinking.
The hard part, Hunter, is we love autocockers, and it's just like autocockers are so niche, but we love them at the same time. And your customer base is so much smaller, but the problem is we just keep wrapping our heads around the autococker stuff, and we're like, oh man, so. But yeah, we're trying to figure out how to get all of these products out that we have and kind of move them along. And like I said, we're learning a lot, and it's been a ton of fun. I don't think people realize how much work is involved in this. I don't think they really understand what it takes to kind of, come from, an idea in your head to something on the screen to a prototype to getting it out, and look, we're going to make mistakes and we'll learn from them. But, I think I'm pretty proud of what we've done so far.
Well, you got a lot of cool stuff. How many prototypes did you guys go through, if you don't mind sharing, with just the Headband Hero?
Yeah, I could probably find a picture and send you, but
Yeah.
a lot of, because I have some lasers and some 3D printers. So the initial concept was just printed flat on a printer, but that probably easily went through, let's see, one, two, three, easily a half a dozen or a dozen different prototypes. That
There were 3D printed prototypes. We had aluminum prototypes that were flat.
yeah,
And it's kind of,
I probably got some here I could show you if we want
I'm
to look
sure
at.
I've got a whole bunch of them in here too, but yeah, a lot of prototypes with that. Shoot, even the more finalized versions, 4 or 5 prototypes of that, just little things. And I don't even think people realize how much expensive that is as well.
Oh
The,
yeah,
the prototype
the
cost.
the first 3 that we took to World Cup, that was like $700 or $800 for 3 of those prototypes.
Yeah. And and that's kind of the cool thing, Hunter, is like, it's fun to pour as much as you can into it and tweak it. And, of course you have to have the balance, right? But at the same time, it's like, and that is one interesting thing about Joshua and I is it's like, If I bring it 85, Joshua will take it 100. I'll then come up with 110. Joshua will bring it to 125. We just keep, and at one point, we were talking with somebody earlier today about this. At one point, you've got to be able to get something out there. But one thing that I've always kind of stood by, and I hope Joshua kind of thinks about it too. We kind of live and die by the idea, right? So it's kind of like if the juice is worth the squeeze, then you go for it. Sometimes that means kind of going backwards in your work in a sense, right? And it's not necessarily what you want to do, but there's been plenty of times where either myself or Joshua has been like, "Hey, I know we're this far, and I know we're about ready to do this, but I was thinking about this," and then I'm like, "Oh gosh, it just blew the whole thing up,"
Starting back at
there's one
0
time specifically that
or
I
step
don't want to
1.
bring this up because we're about to release it, but I've got this other idea.
Yeah, but it's just the case, like, because at the end of the day, like, look, the way that I look at it too is, however long this takes and however many products we do and however, let's make them as great as we can. Let's get all the ideas out there. Let's be happy with what we put out there. And let's not, of course you can have versions 1, 2, and whatever, but let's try and make them the best we can, right? I don't think people realize how much details in that Headband Hero, right? We have the curvature for the back of your head. We have the rollers, there's 6 components that are CNC machined. We have custom screws. Those were tumbled, anodized, they're hand assembled. I mean, there's a lot of work. They're machined to hell and back, right? We've got logos engraved on them. I mean, they're pretty intricate little pieces.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces there too, in such a small space.
Well, Hunter, I will tell you this, and this is kind of maybe an exclusive for your show. We do have other Headband Hero products coming out. We all have a lot
Okay.
of stuff we're working on, and yeah, so there's a lot of cool stuff coming out. But that's kind of the hard thing about the headband is there's so many headbands out there, right? So that was one of the challenges that we had was how do we fit all these different headbands? And there's a lot of different things that we have as well that are coming out, but man, I'll tell you, the headband market has exploded, right? You've got Enemy of the State, Sandana, Hormesis, King's Creations, Frostfire. There's so many cool bands out there, right? But anyways, yeah, man, we're really happy with it. It's been very cool. I'll tell you, like Joshua was saying, we had those prototypes printed. Excuse me, we had those prototypes machined right before World Cup, and actually we were debating which product to release, something completely different than Headband Hero, but we were like, you know what? Let's go to World Cup with Headband Hero. We didn't have a booth, we didn't have anything, right? We just kind of we walked around and just kind of met people and talked with them, and I'll tell you, we must have done a couple hundred Headband Hero presentations, and thankfully my wife
Dancing machine, dude. You should see them.
I'll tell you the coolest thing, Hunter, was to watch them basically. See, do I have one with me? To watch them kind of be a little skeptical at first, put the Headband Hero on and cinch it and just like, holy crap, like that's amazing. You know what I mean? And it's just like, it was so cool to see that, right? But anyways, yeah, you're going to see a lot of cool stuff with Headband Hero coming out. We got a lot of cool stuff.
Cool. And then we kind of referenced it a lot, but you do a lot of autococker parts.
Yeah. Am I allowed to show something on screen? I don't think so, right?
Yeah, good. I'm not monetized, so they let me get away with everything.
Well,
Nice.
so we've done our LPX, we've done our roller trigger, our Delta ZFR, it's amazing, right? You've got this triangulated bearing design. There is a ton of work in this little trigger right here, right? But basically the trigger is floating top and bottom. We've also machined it so think about it this way, Hunter. If you have a hallway, we've machined it thinner than what the outer width of the frame dimensions are. So basically the entire plan behind that project was to float the trigger. So sides, top and bottom. I'll tell you, on the roller bearings, it feels really
There's
awesome.
a V groove track top and bottom, and that's what keeps the plate centered. And then the 3 rollers are V-shaped rollers that fit in those grooves, so that the trigger stays perfectly center. There's no friction left or right or top or bottom. So any of the other autococker guys know the old slide frames just had a chunk of steel that was just literally sliding in there, right?
So there was friction top, bottom, side, left, right. So yeah,
both Gant and I, we played when autocockers were, autocockers and automatics were the guns to have. So like our background or familiarity was definitely with those guns. And it's a cool platform. It's been around for decades now, right? It's still around. People are still making stuff for it. So it's cool to kind of make something that, we dreamed about having them and owning them back in the day, and to kind of make stuff for the top end ones is pretty cool for sure.
Yeah, because I mean, back in the day, you were either an autococker or mad guy. Yeah. You had to pick one.
Your buddy.
I love both, to be honest with you.
they're both cool platforms for sure.
So I actually have a question about the rolling trigger because I was looking at it today.
Yeah.
Does that fit in any frame or just the Shock Tech frame?
It's just the gunfighter, unfortunately.
Okay.
So we get asked that
Part of
question.
that is the. Go ahead, Ken.
Can you go ahead, Joshua?
I say part of that's the geometry for the sear itself. Our trigger works with that. We've looked at and talked about trying to adapt it to a regular slide frame, but one of the challenges with that, among all the other autococker stuff, is there's so many frames out there. How do you make a universal one, right?
Yeah.
Which it's probably doable, and we'll probably, once we get everything else off our plate, address it again. But
there's
again,
a couple we're talking
niche.
Yeah, we're talking about it. There's a couple of different things we can do there. The hard thing with autocockers is, like Joshua was saying, it's so niche that, and there's so much compatibility issues, right? So it's kind of like there's been so many products made over the years that, like, it may fit this, but it may not fit this. So really, us trying to do that as best we can. And I don't know if you saw too, Hunter. So we have the full twister pneumatics we're working on. And we also redesigned a lot of the components in kind of titanium hybrids.
Yeah. That was
really, they're I don't actually, Joshua, you actually just sent them back to me.
Yeah, I still have the
Beaver tails, cocking rods, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, so
other way.
And the cocking rod for the twister. Titanium thinned down.
And Hunter, I'll tell you, one of our kind of mottos, like, so, our name's ATTKTX. It's, for anybody who doesn't know, it's basically a blend of attack and tactics. So the brand's called ATTKTX. And it's kind of our philosophy, kind of how we approach the game, but also how we approach design. So it's kind of like, we want to dive into every little detail possible. So even like Joshua showed there, the cocking rod, the amount of work in just that cocking rod alone, right? We created a brand new bumper. We integrated the bumper. We did the shaft out of titanium. We turned the shaft down. We have an axis removal hole. I mean, there's a ton of detail. Actually, no, that's the beaver tail. We put the flats in it. We want to, and that's the thing. I mean, a little product like that, in a sense, like we pour a lot of time and attention to that one little thing, and that's why we can't get wrapped up in the whole autococker realm, because it's so fun and it's so cool.
Yeah, we're trying to break out of it.
The classic Corvette.
But yeah, we're trying to break out. Like our first attempt of getting out of that market was the Headband Hero, and we've got a couple others coming up here hopefully soon.
Yeah,
that are kind of more paintball. Like we said earlier, we want to design products that every paintballer needs, or every paintballer can benefit from, not just the guys that got the collection of 30-year-old autocockers.
Yeah.
we're gonna do those too, but yeah, exactly. I mean, I think, and Josh and I have talked about this before. I mean, I think the ultimate goal would just be able to go out on the field and play with something that you worked on is just a really cool thing. But also to see other people use it and enjoy it, that, I mean, those two things are equally as awesome, right? I think Joshua can kind of speak to it too. We've gotten lots of messages, especially for the Headband Hero or the Trigger, or whatever, that people enjoy the products, and that really is, that makes it all worth it at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And you're close. Can you pretty much put together a full autococker with what you guys have on the website?
We need a body, a bolt, some lower.
So those are Meteor bodies, right, on the website?
Actually, so for a period of time, I worked for Fabrice Almonet, great guy for Meteor. I worked alongside him at Meteor, and we actually designed that gun. It's called the G series. It was my signature series gun.
Okay.
I just had some of those still left over that I put them on the site, but
gotcha.
We kind of evolved his chamber design, and we kind of came up here with the gold chamber. You want to talk about a ton of time in this little piece. This is a really cool product as well. But Hunter, do you have an autococker right now, or?
I have a Free Flow Lotus, one of the new ones.
One of the new ones. Okay.
And then I still have my 99 right feed, but it's converted into a pump.
I love a good side feed. We might have to get you hooked up with some autococker stuff, man.
Hey, that'd be awesome.
So funny you say that. Josh and I just had a discussion about that recently. I don't want to spill too many beans with different. We got a lot of different things we're working on, but we have looked at, like, I don't know. Just trust me when I tell you there's about 20 different directions here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did look at. We basically have an autococker at this point, right? What else do we need to make a gun? So I mean, we're looking at it. We're looking at it.
Okay. It's an endeavor. Like people, obviously the kind of the custom house autococker scene has taken off since the ICPL came back.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Free flow got reinvented. Danny Love with Shock Tech has kind of been pretty, I'd say, the most consistent of having stuff. And then Meteor kind of came back and left again. And there's been a couple others out there, but
Inception.
Yeah, Inception.
All those are great companies.
Yeah, Inception. And that's coming back from one of my stints away. What got me back in was the Resurrection autococker.
Nice.
Just because, this would be fun. Doesn't have the back block, but let's get it and go out to the field and kick around. And I shot that thing for years just when I wasn't playing tournaments,
That's the thing, the autococker. I mean, even if you don't compete with it, nothing will ever replace that back block coming back and forth and going out there and playing. And you still see it shared on some of the most popular paintball videos today is when, somebody's shooting an autococker. It's like ANS goes out there and shoots an E-blade. It gets, however many views, or, who's the gentleman, Blue Paintball Sports?
Yeah, I was about to bring out Blue's clip he dropped today or yesterday.
I think we all remember the first time we shot a cocker too, where it's just like, dude, like, well, this is insane. Like, you break your JT lens and
yeah, nothing like getting smacked that first time for sure.
And that's kind of funny too. Joshua kind of comes from a different camp as well. Joshua likes a lot of the half block, mid blocks.
Okay,
which makes a lot of sense, right? Which kind of what the resurrection. I'm kind of more the traditional old school with the back block, the beaver tail, but I can completely see why, if you don't have to have all that stuff there, you don't need it, right?
Yeah. I'm definitely, I would say, a traditionalist, but I appreciate the half blocks now more after I had the resurrection. When people started half blocking them, I was like, these are heathens out here. Like, what is going on?
Well, think about how many great guns got drilled for eyes.
Yeah.
That reminds me, one of your guests you had on, Ken Barrett, he had a Westwood back in the day.
Yeah.
You know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I can't remember if he kept it or he sold it. I don't remember, but
I think he sold it. He told me he sold it.
When people were getting $3, $4, $5 for Westwoods, and that's back in the day. I mean, I think they're crazy right now.
Yeah. But man, that was kind of like top end custom house.
Yeah, that was super cool.
Now he's got he was shooting a die free flow autococker last time I saw him.
Really nice.
Yeah,
very cool. Dark Carnival.
Yeah, which they just won the ICPL Amateur.
Good for them.
So they're doing good things. It's cool to see that name
100%
back and doing well. So, but what else do we need to touch on, guys? Joshua, you mentioned, and I don't want to gloss over it, that you played D1 MPPL.
Yeah.
So who did you play with?
2004, 2005 with Bone Break Factory.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think Dan's goal was to start building a team and work it up through the different divisions. But yeah. So I played rookie 0203, and then I played like half a knob season with a local team called Breakout. And we were at one of the knob Pan Am events and one of Dan's plays. So that was part of the sponsorship, is you would go to Pan Am, you'd ref, and then you'd practice after the event, and then you'd fly home, and then he'd fly you out to whatever the Pan Am, whatever one we're going to. So one of his refs or one of his team players saw me playing at this Pan Am, like, hey, do you want to come to? And I had this like just phenomenal game, like 1 in a million game, and they happened to see it. They're like, hey, you want to come out to try out? I was like, yeah, sure. So they flew me out to try out a few weeks later, and like first day, Dan's like, yeah, you're great. Here's the deal. Come play with us. So I was like, awesome.
Nice.
It was funny because like I was spending, I was broke, so I was spending all my money to go do these, these small Pan Am events and just practicing, getting, that's odd. This is what every people dreams of, getting a sponsorship.
Oh yeah.
You show up at the airport, they paid for your plane. You get there, they hand you all your gear. I'm sure Gant can test this too. all I had to do was feed myself, and they took care of the rest. So it was definitely an experience. I wish, like I said, I wished it had. I'm sure if the lawsuits hadn't been there, that Dan was talking about taking us to go do Millennium stuff, and it would have been really cool. But yeah, we played. He had two squads, a D1 and D2 squad. Initially, he had me on the D2 squad, which ended up inside baseball. There was a lot of ego in some of the D1 guys, like they felt like they're owed it or whatever. So Dan was kind of building the secondary squad of guys that had more heart and were more, you know, they didn't think they deserved it, kind of a thing. But then after
And
the
it for the
sponsor,
right reasons.
a lot of those guys disappeared, and what was left, the D2 squad bumped up and played D1. We won first place at the Denver MPPL 2005. And then after
Nice.
that, the sponsorship was gone. But that was kind of the last event that we went and played D1. It was a good time, a lot of fun. It was funny though, because some of the guys that were our D5 bone break guys jumped and went to Dogs, the Naughty Dogs
Oh, okay.
team. Then we wound up playing them in the finals. So it was our old teammates, our old D1 guys that our D2 guys were playing against and beat them. And just the look on some of their faces was priceless, I'll tell you what. But
I shouldn't have jumped ship.
yeah,
It's always a good one when you get to play the guys who left you.
Perfect.
I like that you two are like, you collaborate so much, but also come from like two very different schools of paintball, which I think probably contributes to things being very well rounded.
yeah, definitely. Like, and Gant could probably attest to this too. Like the different skill sets that we each bring to the table. Like I'm very got prototyping capabilities. I've got design. I've been doing design work since over 20 years, on and off, somewhat in some points. But and then like so, I've got a number of prototypes and projects that I've done. They're just sitting in my basement collecting dust because I'll come up with the idea, I'll prototype it, I'll even try and sell it, but I get stuck at that. Okay, how do I promote? How do I sell? How do I market? And Gant has a lot of experience. I mean, if correct me if I'm wrong, but you work as an actual salesman for Hershey, right? So
Yeah, well,
like
I did property
you sold
management.
chocolate for a while.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, I think kind of piggybacking off of what Joshua said, like we complement each other very well. And of course, both having played pretty high in the game and kind of had some industry experience as well. Like again, circling back to if we don't want to shoot it or we don't want to make it, period, right? You know what I mean? So it's like we can kind of, get ourselves in like, hey, what does the player want? But more so like for even just Joshua and I, like we just basically talk something into the point where we were ready to release it, right? And we iterate it, we prototype it, we concept it, we just kind of we get it there, and so far so good, right? Like I think that we're very comfortable in kind of taking an idea through that process, right? And I think like you were saying, Joshua, just our how we complement each other and kind of our experience, but like you were saying, Hunter, so it's been a good time. It's been a learning experience, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, especially,
go ahead.
I would say, yeah, especially like say working at the various different paintball companies and seeing, you think you'd, yeah, still so much to learn going out on your own and all the stuff maybe you didn't see when, so I say I worked at Spec Ops, I worked at Tiberius Arms, so both kind of woods ballish companies, but yeah,
Yeah,
seeing, go ahead.
I think something in kind of like you were mentioning. Joshua and I kind of come from different camps, but we also agree on a lot of things. And the things that we disagree on, it's kind of we let the ideas win. Or like I said, if Joshua was to bring it to 85, I'll bring it to 95, and we just kind of go from there. But you know, me having played at the highest level, I also see a lot. I know what those upper echelon players want, right? And there's lots of different segments of paintball players, right? There's guys who just want something either comfortable or cool that they can go out and play recreationally with. But the pro level players, that's a whole other camp, right? Everything has got to be on point. They have to, it's just there's all those different things. So, trying to make a product that fits those, we're thinking about all of them. The guys that are traveling, right? There's a lot of different things out there. So it's fun, but it's challenging.
Yeah, the traveling with paintball equipment is difficult to say the least, especially with the gear bags. If you guys check those things.
And I hope we can eventually get to the point where we can start doing cooler things where it's like, hey, I'm sending you something this weekend. Try it out. Kind of like what Eclipse and all these big companies do that have been doing this for so long, where it's like, they're shooting prototypes. You don't even know they're shooting them, right?
Yeah.
So Yeah, I mean, we'll get there, but we're very proud of what we've done so far. And man, I'll tell you what, we have cranked a lot of stuff out this year already. I hope you can see what cool stuff we have around the corner, Hunter.
Yeah. Well, I'll be here. Like I said before we hit the record, you guys want a show to debut something, you let me know. We'll do it.
Come back on and we'll do something cool like that for you. I think that would be pretty neat. Now, what are you playing now? What teams are you playing with right now, Hunter?
So this year I'm actually changing careers.
Okay.
So, I'm leaving teaching, so I didn't commit to a team. But I've gotten to play the Blitz, and the C3XL, which is like a 3-man X-ball league. And then trying to get together some ICPL if I can make it up to Pennsylvania. I want to do that.
You need to go to Iron City. That's the one to go to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of been the goal. And then the next one after that's on my son's birthday, so that's a no-go.
But he'll
But
be playing paintball soon, right?
he's getting there. He's getting there. He's at 10. We got the gel blasters running.
Can you imagine like growing up now? You can go from gel blasters to 50 cal to I mean,
It's such a great
dude,
transition,
yeah.
you know.
I mean, or you could jump in at 11 and get your spine or your spine
Yeah.
I
debate
took
if
my
you
son
want to.
to I took my son to a Super Game 2 years ago, and the problem is that beyond the 68 caliber, you have first strike, and unfortunately, he took a couple of first strikes to the bean. He's like,
That's
"Nope,
right.
I'm done."
Yeah.
He's the inverse of Gant. At 11, got shot. He's like, "Nope, I'm out."
Not by a first strike, but I heard they got some
Yeah,
pep in them.
they'll hit you hard. They're lighter weight, but they're traveling. Yeah, they smart for sure. And it's not a gelatin. It's a polymer, if I recall. It's an actual plastic shell. So
True. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
it's
kind of
also you have half a ball with a cone behind it, right? So a ball will collapse, crack, break. The cone has structure, so it just it gives. That's why you get that ring well. Is the perimeter paintball hits you and leaves that ring well. Well, the first strike has a giant. The whole fin section is just a ring that doesn't collapse. So they really whack you.
Yeah, I've heard. I have not. I haven't gotten hit yet. I never got into the scenario side, but something I'm definitely want to get into a little bit more. Me and my buddy John Blanco have talked about going out, and we have been meeting out that World Cup as like our family reunion type thing. We've talked about maybe switching it to a scenario game.
So it's funny you say
They're
that.
definitely slower paced and a little bit more kind of relaxed mentality, right?
Yeah.
I've actually never played a scenario in all of these years, 29 years of paintball. And I was talking with Joshua that is one thing that we want to get into too. I hope that eventually when we can kind of get more things under our feet, that we can hopefully start having a booth and like go out to these events. And I'd love to go to some of the big games. I know Joshua enjoys playing those. And man, I think it would be a blast. But we've talked about going out to Super Game. And I know there's a lot of great scenarios near you, Hunter, like the Black Ops stuff. And
Yeah, Black Ops does a really good job of it. And then we have Red vs. Blue at Palmetto up in Rock Hill. So not too far from you. That's
yeah,
more of a big game, I think, than a scenario. But then we have D-Day right up here, and I've never
we got to
gone.
get out to some. We got to get out to some big games. Who knows? Maybe next year we're actually going to try and hit some big games. That would be really cool. But yeah, I think our plan is we'll be at World Cup for sure. I hope we can have a booth at World Cup. That would be awesome. And hopefully we can have some cool stuff to show off there. But I'd love to play a big game.
Yeah,
Got to shoot.
looks like fun. Well, if you're in the Southeast and going to one, you let me know. I'll show
I
up.
was going to say we need to get in on one.
Yeah, so we'll figure it out.
Pretty cool.
So, but yeah, it's that the CFOA mechanical stuff definitely gonna do. They are doing a old school 7-man too, semi-automatic, fast as you can pull the trigger.
Love it. Seems like the sport has been yearning for another 7-man event.
Yeah, and yeah, the GFOA used to try and do them back when that was still around. I don't know how well they were received, but
Yeah, that's right. I remember that. That was a long time ago.
yeah. Yeah, I feel like their like end of year event was a 7-man event every year. So
Yeah, that's right. Right. Yep, you're right.
I think the East Coast went so hard into X ball, right? When it came in, like all the fields were formatted for it.
I don't know, man. I think people. I don't know. I love X ball as much as I wish we had maybe gone a different path too. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a, and I think now it's all the fields are so invested, right? Like you got a lot of fields that have spent the money on turf, and even used turf is not cheap. Even if you get the turf for free, then you gotta, if you're gonna do it right, it costs a lot of money. I'm not gonna throw out a number here, but I know the numbers, and for a field, that's a big risk.
Dude, I don't know. I haven't, Joshua, each of you could probably speak to this, man. I can remember like going out to just an open group day, just being so many people out there, people of all skill levels, a couple good guys out there, but it's just like maybe the field was kind of an equalizer in a sense, and kind of the terrain, and of course the guns and the rates of fire. I mean, of course, where this is a different time period, but man, like just going out there and playing an open group, now it's like you either want to play X ball or you don't. It's
Yeah.
like there's not much in between for those players. I don't know. There's a lot of great things about it, but at the same time, I think there's nothing in between in a sense.
Yeah, it's hard.
I don't know.
And I also feel like, so if we go in the Wayback Machine to like 1999, 98, the Spider could, it wasn't the best thing, but it could kind of compete a little bit with the mag and autococker, right? Like it wasn't this huge gap. And I think that allowed people to dip in and dip out a little bit easier.
Well, the nice thing about the Spider is you could get in low, but you could spend $500 on the Spider.
Yeah.
But that was cool though, because there was so much accessories back then, and it's just like you're right though. I mean, you could still go out there and compete, but then when you start to, well, if you're talking about ramping, you either have an electronic gun or you don't.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think the EMEC has done fantastic for the sport.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That is a
That's
great, the Planet Eclipse guys. I mean, those dudes are they're top notch, man. I mean, every time
Yeah, I
you
was gonna
look at
say
their,
that.
go ahead, Joshua.
I was yeah, that budget kind of those Eclipse, the Ethas, the three, what are they, three, four, $500? I guess it'd be closer to 500, but the amount of performance you get in those guns and the ease of maintenance, like, man, if we had those back in the Spider days.
Man,
Yeah, it's hard to beat a good EMEC. I mean, I don't think you see it as much anymore, but during the early ICPLs and ICCs, you were seeing the EMECs and the what is it, the God Enemy?
the GOG.
Yeah, I mean, those guys were using those instead of autocockers and doing just fine with them. And I'd like to see some beginner 3-man that limits it to something like not a eco, oh my gosh, the EMEC. Sorry, I had to look at I got one on the floor.
EMEC, what are you talking, like EMEC only, or?
Yeah, like EMEC, or like maybe it's the tournament provides the gun, and we're talking like true beginner event, so people can get a taste of it before having to jump in and even buy the $400 mini, or yeah, I'm not even quite sure what those go for these days, but um, you know, that's a lot when you're trying to get kids involved, right? But if you could provide something like, hey, here's a format, we'll provide you with one, or you can bring your own if you have one of these, um, I
Well, the
think that
jump
would
ball
be
thing, that's got to be super good for the sport. I mean, that is, I can't imagine. I mean, the closest thing that we had to that back in the day was you went out to Walmart and you grabbed a couple Brass Eagle Talons,
yeah,
grabbed a couple, but dude, that was awesome too. That was so much fun. If you ever had, play with a couple Talons, man, it was so much fun.
yeah, that was fun. And you go into the neighborhood woods and you just went at it for as long as the CO2 would allow.
Oh yeah, the
That
dead
was
shots
really
that it
that
had
was kind of
maybe.
my precursor to paintball is when I was living in Michigan, in the early 90s or whatever. We lived, it was this blueberry farm that had been overgrown, so there's like rows of blueberry bushes, but it was grown over with trees and stuff. So before I got into paintball, me and my brothers would go out there with wrist rockets, and we take blueberries and shoot each other with blueberries. But then hey, they make paintballs for this. So we can just buy a paintball gun and yeah, I'll tell you what, blueberries hurt too.
Joshua,
Those wrist rockets hurt.
what's the FPS on that?
Well, we didn't have chronos when we started paintballing, so there's no way we're chronoing blueberries.
Well, it was funny, Joshua, because you only started playing in crop fields.
Right.
But
because we were broke, poor kids. All we had was the woods, right? You go out and play wherever you could play.
yeah. Well, kind of a funny story about that chronoing, and Hunter, obviously Todd Adamson, we called him Lord of the Rings, right? Because he's, won so many things lately. But I remember Todd telling the story about when they would play back in the day with, I don't know, I think it was like F1 illustrators or something like that. How they would chrono the guns is there's a Shopify. Thank you, Shopify. Thank you, our customers. But anyways, what I was going to say was they would shoot a tree, and if the bark flew off of it, then it was too hot, and then they'd turn it down. It's like, dude, can you imagine playing without face masks back in the day? Crazy.
We had guys show up to our house because that's where we played. I'd set up, a field out in the blueberry bushes, but they would show up with, like, I had one guy that it was a hockey mask, and he cut open a 2-liter and wrapped it around the hockey mask.
Oh, geez.
So like we were constantly testing because we didn't have a chrono. So they bring these weird masks and goggles and things. We're like, all right, we'll shoot half a loader at it, and if it survives, you can wear it. I wouldn't, right? Because it wasn't. But there's so many things we blew up. But surprisingly, the hockey mask with the 2-liter, I guess because it was 1-inch steel grid, so the plastic was it survived.
Jeez.
I was like, if you want to play with it, but again, that was our other thing is like, we'd go out and play out in the fields, and we'd turn our guns up so we could actually hit each other at the distances. But once it got dark, we'd come in and play between our house and the barn. So we'd set up like a pseudo speedball field. It was like, barrels and tubes and pallets, but we'd be cranked up from out in the giant field, and we come and play this like, close speedball thing. There's one time I thought I killed my brother because I came up and bunkered him, but we were probably shooting 350. Who knows how crazy fast we're shooting. Yeah, chronos are a good thing.
Yeah,
Use the proper safety equipment.
Safety is a good thing.
But yeah, to Gant's point, like some of the first masks were just the JT Elite with the little was it the whippersnapper? Yeah.
Right here.
It's like, man, how are we not missing teeth?
My first JT Spectra, I actually cut it, in the little V like everybody had it. You see all the players and stuff. I think everybody cut up a Spectra at one point, but
yeah.
Before we forget, I know that you have some people on every now and then. You show some jerseys. I wanted to show a couple off to you. I know that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
This was actually my first jersey that I ever got, my first team jersey, and we actually colored these in red. This is on 2 Extreme, and I actually got in a couple magazines with this first jersey, but pretty cool first JT, and we cut these off and stuff. And then I think that some of your viewers will like this too, and I know you'll appreciate this. This is actually this is a image jersey, so it's got the War Games die, and I got to give a shout out to Danny Manning at Traumahead. This was actually Todd Trozik's jersey. It kind of fell apart here, but rest in peace, Todd Trozik, who passed away, was a local legend, Team Extreme, Image, and all of that. And I know you guys have your kind of role models and stuff that you looked up to, but we had the Jason Greens and the Todd Troziks and all these cool players. But Image, obviously, still a legendary team. But yeah, it's a pretty cool jersey.
Yeah, that's a gnarly one.
And I'll tell you, it's amazing. Look at what JT's done. But JT has just come full circle. You're right. It's such an iconic brand.
Yeah, for a brand that was, I don't know, 15 years ago, pretty much dead.
Yeah, true.
Right.
True.
To now be that prominent again it's
amazing.
Kind of wild.
Yeah.
And definitely leaning heavy on the nostalgia, but I mean, I'm here for it. I love it.
I mean, the flex builds out there, they're wild, man. I mean,
yeah.
God, it's just cool to see. They're still comfortable goggles. Sorry, guys, these messages and stuff. But yeah, they're comfortable goggles, and they still look great. I mean, they're iconic design.
Yeah. Well, and one of the more customizable parts of like modern day gear, right?
Good point.
Like we were talking about, you could upgrade that Spider $500. the autococker, it was black. You got black or gray, which one you want. It came with the shitty barrel. You were taking off the trigger frame and putting the new one on right away.
Dude, you nailed that on the head. That's a very good point. Shocker and Smart Parts, they had, I mean, you could go crazy with the shockers too.
Yeah.
But you're right. That customization element is not there right now. And partly it's because companies like Planet Eclipse make such great products. It's hard to change something
Oh
out.
yeah, they're
right?
too good.
But at the same time, it's like everybody wants that piece of personalization. And that's one thing that we've really tried to do with the Headband Heroes too, where you can kind of eventually we want to have it. One of the ultimate goals for Headband Hero would be to where we could have enough parts in stock and inventory that you could build your own hero. You could have all the components the way that you want them, the screws, all that kind of stuff. And you're right, there's not much customization. So the flex is really all for that. Obviously, you can anodize your gun and whatnot, but there's really not much gear, right? And that's the other cool thing about the Headband Hero was the idea was you could anodize your gun, but also have the hero to match it. So you kind of have that kind
That'd
of
be cool.
right. So, but anyways, you're right. I mean, I think people are kind of missing that customization aspect.
Well, and I think that's why the headbands have taken off so much, right? Like you got your mask, depending on what company you're with, not much you can do out, and then you have your headband, and that's pretty much it, especially for sponsored guys.
Yeah, that's another challenging thing too, because and that was, I know we kind of referenced back in the day, but you could shoot a die barrel, wear a JT goggle, wear a unique pack or an extreme rage pack. You shoot a view loader. Now and I understand it. It's tricky. It's difficult, right? You either got to be head to toe this or that's all there is, and it's tricky, right? I understand why they do it, right? They put a lot of time and effort into it. They want to have people represent their product, but I don't know. I think that element's also hurt paintball a little bit too, right? I think that I think
Yeah.
that I think companies have gotten more flexible with that. I know Twister does something very cool where they make so many products and co-brand so many products that now you can mix and match all the different brands.
Yeah, I've liked that with Twister for sure. It's also what, JT slash, I was about to call it Key, but it hasn't been Key for a while. GI, it used to be you had a paint company, you had the jersey company, you had the barrel company, then you had the gun company. And now these guys have been in the game so long, they have all that, right? So it makes sense. I understand why, but and you got me with the unique. You got me with the unique.
You know your stuff, man. They made some cool. Even the extreme rage stuff was awesome, but I don't know. I think that hurts paintball a little bit too. And I mean, you can see there's all these iconic brands in paintball. I mean, other than maybe Method and a couple other companies and ourselves, like there's not many new companies in paintball that I can think of off the top of my head. Maybe I'm wrong. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of other small companies, but
Yeah.
the main guys have been doing it for a period of time, and I think the industry is also missing that outside perspective and outside products, like to where there were all those years there where you could go to a World Cup and there were all these brands, and it's just like all these new products, and I don't know, everything is so much under one house now that you don't have a lot of that anymore. I don't know.
Yeah.
My favorite thing at going to an event was just going down the vendor booths and seeing what was new. Yeah, whether it was a race gun or whether it was a different barrel or a loader. Yeah, that was always one thing I enjoyed about going to events is just seeing what was new too.
Yeah. And there's definitely less of that. And, World Cup used to be where like you got to see all the new stuff. And I know some companies still try to do it, but it's not like it was, And I remember as a kid, probably the first year I was playing, Absolute Carnage went down to World Cup, and I couldn't wait for them to come back because I knew they were coming back with all the new goodies, and I just wanted to see what was coming to the pro shop. And a little bit of that's gone. And it's probably because of market cycles and stuff like that. Sure, there's very good reasoning, but it takes away a little bit from it.
I don't think there's any easy answer to it. It's difficult, it's expensive, it's challenging, it's technology. People have gotten so good at it. I think there's this whole bubble but I think we need to sit down and figure out, how do we, don't get me wrong, Nova's come back. There's a lot of great companies. Carbon does amazing stuff. I mean, there's so many great companies out there, but there is something there that's missing to where we don't have more, and we don't have more fresh ideas and different things like that, right? So who knows? Who knows, right? That's not to say that everything in paintball is not good. I mean, there's some great stuff out there. I think what NXL has done is, I mean, NXL has done a great job, right? Like, I mean, go to one of their events. I mean, it's to try and pull that off is crazy.
Well, and it's hard to argue when the numbers are up, right?
Yeah.
I think World Cup for the last 3 years has increased significantly. They just announced today we're going back to Kissimmee, but I think they were looking for a bigger place. At least that's what the rumor mill was.
Yeah. Did you see that?
And I am not linked into any industry guys, so
All that, Joshua, they're going back to same venue.
yeah.
Which is
I'd
cool.
heard that they're yeah. I think I'd heard similar things where they were looking for something else. But
Yeah.
it's all the challenges, just all the challenges. I might get chaotic here in a minute, so I might have to mute. But
Well, we are at an hour and 30, which is
We're the
longer than I normally do, actually. So you guys are troopers. Thank you so much. We'll go ahead and end it. I just need you guys to hang out for a little bit. All right.
awesome,
We
sounds
appreciate
good.
you, Hunter.
Hey, thank you guys again for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Enjoyed it, man.
Thanks for tuning in to the Planet Paintball podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Whether you're out there grinding in the divisional pits or chasing dreams on the pro stage, remember, it's all about the passion, the hustle, and the love for the sport. Shout out to 1023 Sportswear for sponsoring the show. Don't forget to use code Planet Paintball at checkout for 20% off your order. Gear up, save big. Until next time, keep grinding, keep growing, and we'll see you back here on the Planet Paintball podcast